On this show, we'll dive into the complex realities of harm reduction, substance use disorder, homelessness, and related topics.
We want to emphasize that while we have extensive frontline experience in these areas, we are not accredited professionals. Therefore, despite thorough research, factual inaccuracies may occur from time to time.
We are passionate advocates who prioritize lived experiences and compassion in all discussions. Our conversations may contain explicit language and address topics that can be upsetting to some listeners.
We encourage everyone to engage with an open mind and understand that our goal is to foster understanding, empathy, and support for those impacted by these issues.
Thank you everyone who has listened and shared and liked and downloaded and
Given feedback. So important.
Emailed.
Oh, yeah.
Followed us on Instagram and TikTok and
The Facebook.
just thank you. Just thank you.
Well, this has been a big goal for us to have this good feedback and good energy and we're at you and that, however you look at the statistics on whatever you call it for our podcast, things are going well. So thanks so much, everyone.
Yeah. So, welcome
to our show.
Welcome to A Dose of Reality. I'm Cassandra.
I'm Tanya.
And we have a good episode today. Tanya's really excited for this episode. So
I am.
We have our first guest today.
It's happening.
We're waiting for him to arrive.
But I can hear him in the background, so he hasn't forgotten us yet.
Pulling up in his Corvette.
Josue Gauguin, team lead of the OPS here at Ensemble.
Yes, we looked very hard to get him on the show today. Thank you for coming, Josue.
Yes.
Yeah, no problem.
So,
Thanks for having me.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. So this is exciting because to me, nobody really knows in Moncton, or, well, outside of Moncton, forget it, but nobody really understands or knows what Ensemble's about. I still talk to people and they're like, oh, Ensemble, what is that? So today we're going to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. So Tanya, we always start every episode with a check-in. So let's ask our guest first. Josue, how have you been this week so far? We can talk about it. Okay, so we had an incident on Monday, which kind of put us all collectively in a
I'd almost go to say a funk. I'm still a funk. It threw me off.
Yeah, threw us off for the week. So we had an incident on Monday that really speaks to the barriers in what the systemic barriers, I guess, and gaps in the community. So, trying to figure out how to say it without as professional as possible. So on Monday we had an incident where we had a client and you were both more present than I was, so jump in at any time, but we had an individual in our overdose prevention site who was clearly in a mental health crisis, and there was absolutely no services for that individual.
And last resort is to call 911.
So you called the mobile crisis units. You called
I called mobile crisis. I called mental health and addictions to get connected to mobile crisis. I have no idea why it didn't come up properly. And then we resorted to 911, and we did get the help we needed in the sense that we had a client that wasn't safe and she was taken to safety at the hospital. But we didn't get the results that we hoped we would. We just don't have mental health services in Moncton to this degree.
So what happened was, because we had no mental health services or mental crisis services, I guess, we had to, our last resort was to call the cops. So the cops showed up, and this particular client had a syringe in her hand. And I think it really needs to be known that the staff here at Ensemble, the staff here at the Overdose Prevention Site, we are very good at our jobs, and we know how to de-escalate, and we know how to approach these situations. However, and Josue, you were there, you saw her. I don't even know if I saw her that day, but she was not in a state to be talked down. She was not.
No, I would say she was in psychosis, and wasn't in a state to
No.
be talking. She didn't really know exactly where she was, and she was really talking to us just at things that she was experiencing. So there was no de-escalating, I suppose. And then the officers showed up, and perhaps it's through lack of proper training to deal with these kinds of situations,
Yeah.
but they didn't respond the way that we would have liked to have seen. It was a bit more brutal.
Yeah, so she got tased, right? Because she did have a syringe in her hand that she would not put down. But there's clearly, the officer was telling her to put the syringe down, and that officer was not present to her. Because it came across like she wasn't listening, but there was no words getting retained in her head. So the whole point of bringing this up, I think, is just that we had an incident on Monday, and it just really spoke volumes for the whole staff about the big gaps in services we have. Because what we had wanted, the reason for us to make that call, for one, is us being like, we really need help. We really need backup here. Because the staff we have on hand, the whole staff's capable, but we have reached the point where we don't know what to do. We can't have this individual here all day. We are in the middle of a shift change. That wouldn't be fair to the new staff coming in. It was very unsafe for this individual to, even if we had somehow escorted her outside, someone else would have called the cops.
She wasn't safe outside.
She wasn't safe outside. She wasn't, her own safety was at risk. So our only option, because we couldn't get a hold to any mental health crisis lines, our only option was to call 911. And we had said on the phone, what we want is someone who can come, remove this individual, and bring her somewhere where she can get help.
Absolutely.
And the only people they could send is the cops, which it's not fair to them. That's not their job to do that. I get that. So I'm not I'm not going to talk about the cops. I'm not going to talk about yes, she was tased, and big respect for the cop, because he did come back the next day and explain to us what happened, how safe she was, and she, she's okay. We have seen her since then.
Yes.
She's okay. But it just really speaks to the lack of help that we have in this community.
And the lack of resources.
The lack of resources, because we debriefed the next day as a team, and one of our staff asked, well, what do we do if it happens again? And we don't know. What do we do?
We did everything we could. We did the best with what we had to work with, meaning resources. But it wasn't enough. And when next time rules are, when you look at it, we did everything we possibly could.
The outcome wouldn't have been any different.
No.
I don't think. I think about it, and I'm just I don't think it would have turned out any different. Right?
Well, we just don't have the services to provide what she really needed, what the client really needed. So that being said, again, it was a really rough week, although it's not finished.
But we have this platform now where we can talk, and we're slowly growing this platform where we can bring awareness to those things. So I think it's important that, our check-ins, Josue, aren't always this. Last week, Tanya was like, oh, I saw my baby.
Oh, my baby.
I'm like, oh, I got to walk my dog. But I don't think, I think we should really bring these forward when they happen.
It needs to be known.
Nothing's going to nothing's going to change if we don't be like, hey, listen, this happened. This is an issue. How are we going to fix it for next time?
And it gives more understanding into mental health. Gives more understanding to the fact that mental health crises do happen, and we want the very best for our clients. And we just don't have the services that would have given that to this individual. So
the whole staff's in a bit of a funk this week.
Well, I'm sorry, but I still am.
Not. We kind of just took over your check-in, Josue. How are you feeling?
Well, you kind of said it all there.
And it makes sense if everybody does feel different. I'll be honest, I'm still constantly replaying it in my head. It's jaded me a little bit.
Yeah.
So I've got to bounce back from that. But staff seems to be okay.
No, yes.
Okay.
Yes. No, I agree. Staff,
Anything wonderful happened this week for you, Josue? Mildly pleasant?
Only Wednesday.
I absolutely 100% agree. Everybody was checking in with everybody. We debriefed the next morning. We stayed late after work to work through things. I love our team. It's family.
Aww.
No, I really 100% do, because it makes a difference who you work with.
Yeah.
If you work with people who suck, Your week's gonna suck sometimes, but you guys are awesome.
That's wise words.
Thanks. I worked on
Anything positive? So Josue, nothing positive's happened to you at all this week.
No, I've had a good week at home and stuff.
At home.
Fine.
How's your puppy?
My puppy's great.
I have a picture of the puppy. We can put it on the podcast.
There you go.
There.
Has anything wonderful happened in your week, Cassandra?
No. Do you know what's gonna happen wonderful in my week? Is this daily dose that you're giving us?
OMG. I cannot wait to tell you about this. Okay, so shall we jump into the daily dose?
Do you want to explain what the daily dose is?
Daily dose is a featured moment on our podcast that gives harm reduction facts and fun facts. We like to mix it up a little bit. So let me shimmer some positivity
Are
on
you
you.
ready for this, Josue? Like, are you ready?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So, did you know you
not
can
ready.
make diamonds out of peanut butter?
Yes.
What?
You
I
actually
didn't know that.
You did
I
it?
just wanted to ruin your moment.
I'm like, you're kidding me. So, seriously, you can make diamonds out of peanut butter.
Do you like how she said the daily dose is a feature for harm reduction facts, is what she said.
And fun
She
facts.
said or fun facts.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Thank you,
Specified.
Josue. Yep. So,
I didn't know this. No.
yeah, it's true. So,
Okay.
because there's carbon in peanut butter, and through a scientific process called high pressure, high temperature synthesis, peanut butter can be transformed into tiny artificial diamonds. First done by a German geophysicist. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's incredible for a fun fact. I'm wowed if you're not, and I'm sure my listeners, our listeners, all the listeners are excited to know they can make diamonds out of peanut butter. If you don't believe me,
We're all gonna be rich.
You have a lot of peanut butter in that cabinet behind Josue.
100%
right
I
now.
do. We got to get to work.
Now we know why.
Yeah, right? She's not up here doing wellness navigating. That's not what she's doing.
Did you know that 1 acre?
We have more than one fun fact?
Oh no, this is a continuation of fun.
Oh, okay.
So 1 acre of peanuts will make 30,000 sandwiches. An average child eats 1,500 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches before graduating from high school.
Wow.
Right?
What's the definition of an average child?
Oh, we can't go down that road this soon.
Wow.
So there's your daily dose. I'm pretty proud of myself, but I can tell that maybe I've thrown you off. So, well, we'll just let that one slide, and you're welcome, everybody out there. And I know it's a lot to work with, dear. It's a lot.
You know what? I love it. I do.
Do ya?
I do, yes. So we are going to touch a little bit about what Ensemble is. I guess not so much what Ensemble is, but the services we offer, because we've talked about harm reduction, and going forward we're going to mention, OPS, NDS, and things like that a lot. So we have it's kind of worked out that Tanya and I host this podcast, and then we brought Josue in because myself, I'm the coordinator of the needle distribution service. So we've had the needle distribution service since 2007, and it is exactly what it sounds. We distribute needles, basically. So yeah, so we do it to help reduce the transmission. Am I saying transmission? Is that a truck thing?
No, there are transmissions on it, but you're 100% on the transmission.
I completely blanked that. It's so warm in this room. I was like, I don't know if that's the right word.
Comfortably warm.
We hand out. We don't. Okay.
I'm feeling a little frazzled too. Deep breath.
It's okay. It's fine.
Start again. So Cassandra, what is the NDS?
Thank you, Josue. I will gladly tell you. So, I'm just gonna say, Ensemble has had the needle distribution service since 2007. Do you know we used to operate it out of a van?
What?
We used to have a van.
Okay. Oh, I knew you had a van, but I didn't realize you went around passing out harm reduction supplies.
Yeah, like years ago we used to have a van.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
But I think it was
awesome.
before its time. Like now that would be amazing. If we had a van, we could just drive around and give out supplies.
Yeah.
But at that point it wasn't, the clientele's not like it was.
Yeah.
So we have a needle distribution service to reduce the transmission of sexually transmitted and bloodborne infections. So to do that, we hand out Thank you. Thumbs up. To do that, we hand out syringes. What else do we hand out? Meth pipes, crack pipes, cookers, vitamin C, water, tourniquets, alcohol swabs, naloxone kits.
Sometimes socks.
Yep, socks, yeah.
Still harm reduction.
Condoms.
Yeah. Lube.
Condoms, lube, anything that will help reduce the spread of sexually transmitted and bloodborne infections. So, and then we also have the added bonus of donations. So any socks, hygiene products, sandwiches, food, toiletries. We do have, so a little background, I guess, about it is we do have limits we can give out on supplies. And I do talk about this because people ask sometimes, well, how many syringes can you hand out? Because we're always seeing the syringes in our parks. So people can get up to a box of syringes a day, which is 100. People are going to say that is a lot of syringes you can get. It is, but it isn't, because every time you use a syringe doesn't mean you're going to...
Sometimes you need to use more than one needle
to
inject.
get your fix, like I guess is how you could say. Like, and realistically, if you inject your needle and you don't get your fix or whatever, you have to change your needle and use a new one. So they could have a box of 100, and out of that 100, they may only actually properly inject about 20 times. Right? Does that make sense?
I think.
Did I explain that good? Okay.
Yeah.
So, and same thing with pipes. Like, we hand out about 4 pipes a day for individuals. And the reason it's that many is because you're also not supposed to share any pipes, and you're not supposed to share syringes and stuff. So, we are a distribution, not a needle exchange. So needle exchange programs aren't as popular as they used to be. So before, it always started out with needle exchange. So it's a 1-to-1 exchange. So if I give out 10 syringes, you bring back 10, I'll give you another 10. But that doesn't really work with the harm reduction policy. And we talked about all this before, I believe, in like the pilot episode or one of the episodes. It doesn't really work with the harm reduction policy, because then you're asking someone, particularly our clientele who are homeless, we're asking them to carry around 10 used needles.
Yeah.
And you can't get new ones until you bring them back. So people are just going to reuse needles. So it doesn't really work with our policy. So we are just a distribution.
Could we explain why we don't want to use a needle more than once as well? I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I meant you, but just meaning that you think you can use a syringe several times to use, but after you use it once, the needle barbs.
Yeah.
So if you were to reuse it, it will pull on the veins, which would cause infections.
Yeah. Yeah. So
so important not to use it more than once.
Yeah. They also do a lot of referrals. So they refer a lot to Tanya, whose position is wellness navigator, which she will talk about later. Also, we have a nurse practitioner on staff, so a lot of referrals to our nurse practitioner, our counselor, and external referrals too. We get a lot of people who come in and they're like, I'm new to town. Where do I get food?
Yeah.
So we'll tell them where to get food. And we also most of our clientele are those who are homeless or use substances. But we do get sometimes, especially I notice in the September-ish when school picks up, we get a lot of parents come in. Nice few parents come in for either naloxone kits or for condoms.
Really?
Their kids are starting to be sexually active.
I would never have
Because
thought
it's free, right? All of our supplies are free, and also it is an anonymous service, so we don't know our clientele's real names. It's a code name based operation, I guess. So you can come in and get condoms and just ask for condoms. You don't have to pay. You don't have to give me any details. You just gotta give me your code name, give you some condoms, go away. And it's so funny because people are more embarrassed about asking for condoms than they are meth pipes.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if either of you have noticed that, but if anyone comes to the NDS, they'll be like, can I have some syringes? Can I have this? Can I have that? Can I have meth pipes? Oh, and can I also have some condoms?
Really?
Yeah. People get very embarrassed to ask for condoms.
Well, it is quite a personal thing, I suppose. Maybe that's why, but...
Yeah. But our clients are also very resourceful. In the winter, a lot of people use lube but a lot of people use lube for their bike chains and
What?
Yeah.
Really? Have you heard that before?
No.
Really? Me neither.
But I'm not that surprised.
Yeah.
Not as surprised as you are.
It makes sense. Sorry to interrupt, but I was like, whoa, dude, okay, your bike's gotcha.
Yeah.
Just never thought of the parallel.
Yeah. And it's not like, so yeah, we get parents come in. We also we have a few individuals who are diabetic but are lower income, so they come to get their insulin syringes. And like, so although people have this assumption that we are here to hand out syringes to people who use substances, and that's not the case. Like, anyone and everyone who is at risk of contracting an STBBI can come and use the needle distribution service, is what I'm trying to say, basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah. So, just some numbers.
Oh, I like numbers.
Well, we have. This is from our fiscal year 2023 to 2024. So, at the needle distribution service, we see about 1,700. We've seen about 1,700 unique individuals, which is a 12% increase from the previous fiscal year.
Okay.
For everyone who says they see syringes at parks, our syringes have gone down. So we don't hand out we still hand out almost like 500,000 syringes, but it's gone down. Pipes have gone up. We hand out about 80,000 pipes a year.
Because people are more smoking now than injecting, maybe? Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess that's the needle distribution.
That's awesome.
It started off when I started working in the needle distribution, it was just myself. And that was doable. But now it's gotten so, like, the clientele have increased the amount of people we serve, that now we have myself and then 2 full-time staff. And we usually always have, like, a student or a youth down there with them. So it's really, really increased and really picked up. And I know Josue can talk to that too, because he had to increase his staff like tenfold recently. So, but that is just a bit about the needle distribution. So, needle distribution is one of the frontline services we offer at Ensemble, and the second is our newest service, which is the overdose prevention site.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
You are so excited.
I have been excited.
So we're breezing through mine and Tanya's, because we've also already talked about it a bit before on the podcast, but we just want to dive into the overdose prevention site.
It's amazing. I can't wait. So, Josue.
Wow, we're diving right in.
We are.
All right.
Tanya dives in.
So, I mean, not everybody knows what Ensemble is, so it's awesome that we unpacked it. But not everybody really understands the whole idea behind an OPS. So, OPS stands for Overdose Prevention Site. Josue, can you tell us how it works?
Yeah, so people come in. It's an anonymous service, so they give us a code name. We'll ask them what they're using that day, and they can come in and use their substances. And then we are there with them, so if anything happens, if they have an overdose response, we can respond to it. While we're there, we can also help them with other things. If they have wounds, we can refer them to the nurse, things of that nature. If they're looking to get help with housing or something like that, we'll refer them to Tanya, the wellness navigator. But yeah, it's like the first point of contact for people who are actively using, and it's a safe place for them to use, so they're not using alone. And
I really like that you said that, the first point of contact, because I remember reading somewhere once that like places like needle distribution services and overdose prevention sites are actually similar to the first step to recovery or treatment or what have you, because it's at that point where the individual has decided to, I'm going to do everything I can to keep myself safe, so I'm going to go to an overdose prevention site, because I know that the staff there are going to help in case I do overdose, or I'm going to go and get sterile syringes, because then I'm going to reduce my chances of contracting an STBBI. So for people who say that these things aren't useful or important, it gives back some of that autonomy and empowerment to people who use substances. And you don't just see people who like you have like quote unquote the few everyday people who come into your site.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's not just those who perceive as homeless or what have you. So
For sure. So, Josue, thank you very much, first of all, for explaining that, sir. But
so 90s talk show.
what? Man, 50's been a bitch this year. Holy, I'm getting slammed left, right, and center. But it's okay. I got to be a grandma this year, so 50 works. So anyway, Josue, what was the response like the community had when you guys opened up the OPS? Any lingering thoughts, or was it supported? Was it?
well, I would actually say it was kind of mixed. Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
there are definitely always going to be people who are against it, and like there are people who have made complaints. The city often comes forward complaints that they've had about our establishment and like just like the people hanging around and stuff like that. And there's certainly people who don't want us in the downtown area.
Yeah.
And there are certainly other organizations that don't really understand where we're coming from with this.
Yeah.
And therefore aren't really supportive or don't really want to work with us to the same degree that they might work with other organizations.
Right.
But that being said, I mean, I think like I've seen in like comment sections and stuff, I've seen people being pretty positive as well. And I've seen some positive response, and like maybe that's what I'm choosing to see, but that's what I've seen some positive feedback from what we're doing as well.
Remember, like, we haven't, the OPS hasn't been around that long.
No, we've been open since November of 2021.
Do you remember when it went, I ask because I do you remember when it like got announced in the news and it was like all over like Facebook? Do you remember what that reaction was like?
Not really. Was it bad?
Oh. I thought you were. That's why I was like trying to lead you in. No, it wasn't like.
I thought it was okay. I thought we were bracing for like the worst.
The worst,
and then it was pretty mild. Especially if you compare it to places like PEI right now that are trying to
for sure.
open an overdose prevention site, and they keep getting shut down by the city and things like that. So like it's been pretty mild compared to other places.
We like really like we opened our overdose prevention site like at the sweet spot. Like if it had been any longer, I generally think it wouldn't have happened.
I agree.
Because of the response PEI. Are you familiar with what happened in PEI with their?
Not overly, no.
I believe they had their site, they had staff,
they had the space,
yeah. They were ready to open, and then I think
an election came up, so they decided that, I think it was a municipal one, because I think they still have the funding from the province, but like Charlottetown wouldn't let them open anywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
they've had a few different sites, but each time they have to have like a town hall meeting type thing.
I think it's the same thing in St. John right now. I think they're seeing the same thing. Like when St. John was similar. They had a building, they had the money, they had staff, and then the minute the landlord found out what it was for, like shut it down. And so I don't think it's as political in St. John, but it's pretty similar.
If you look across the country too, a lot of sites are losing their funding right now, and like which is terrifying. Like in the prairies, a lot of them are losing their funding, having to cut back hours.
There's going to be so many more deaths.
Yeah, but when the issue becomes politicized, this is what happens. So.
Okay.
People are scared of what they one thing I remember from I remember specifically the boardroom the morning it was announced, not the morning we opened, but the morning it like went public, I guess you can say. I remember we're sitting in the boardroom upstairs and Debbie goes, "No one look at the Facebook comments for the next day or so." Meanwhile, we're all like,
yeah, I'm sure I did.
Can't control us, Debbie.
Right? But I remember people like, okay, the one criticism we had was our hours, but that wasn't our. People were like, "Oh, I guess substance use only happens Monday to Friday, 9 to 4 or whatever," because we didn't have the funding for staff.
It was a starting point.
It was a starting point, right? We couldn't jump in right away and be like, "We're open 24/7." So that one wasn't really like that big of a deal. But one I kept seeing is like people were just like, "This is ridiculous. You're giving them a place to use. You're enabling. And I remember someone had commented like, it wasn't like a big long rant. It was just someone had commented and like, "What do you think bars are?"
Seriously though.
Right? So you're right. We do have those people in the comments who like back us up and stuff, because they're right. A bar is a safe consumption site.
So the whole idea of us chit-chatting is to unpack the idea of why Josue is it so important that we have an overdose prevention site in our community.
Well, like the big like main point that always comes up is the obvious one, that we're saving lives just by being here and being able to respond to overdoses as they happen, so people aren't out using behind a dumpster where no one will find them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's more to it than that. I feel like we're meant to be like just kind of a piece of the puzzle. And like I mentioned earlier, we're kind of the first point of contact. And so like we can help people when they choose to receive help, whatever that might look like for them.
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's a lot of pieces missing in the system, which
Yeah,
leaves us
yeah.
with a lot of gaps.
The first point of
enough.
contact is the only point of contact.
Yeah, well, we're not meant to be like, it's not like you have an OPS and then, okay, issue solved.
Yeah.
But it's a good starting point. And then, but we do need to fill these gaps so that we can send people for whatever help they might need, whether it's housing or, we need more of those things. Yeah. But I think also just having a place like for them to come in the moment, I think, and like feel safe and, just be treated with respect. I think that's important to people. And I think our service can really focus on the moment, and we focus on the moment where we're at, and we can help people that way. But there are unfortunately gaps where it's hard to move past that.
Yeah.
But,
I know people have said too in the past, like one thing they like about coming to an overdose prevention site is they don't feel rushed because they're not out like you said, out behind a dumpster, or they're out like in the park and they're trying to quickly inject. So they like, not to get it over with, I guess, like they're trying to quickly inject so no one catches them.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? But that's also very dangerous.
well, here, what I think, like the feedback that we have gotten is that they have time to think about it. They have time to take like smaller shots.
Yeah.
They can like try it out first, see how they feel, then they kind of can gauge it a little bit more. So like, even our number of overdoses is probably lower than what it would be in like other organization where our folks encounter, because they have that time to think. They don't have to rush and hide. And so
do you know, I know you know the number for like the fiscal year. Do you know how many overdoses you've had since you opened?
you didn't ask me to come prepared with numbers.
Do you know off the top of your head? Like
I don't know off the top of my head. It would be roughly like over 200, but
because last fiscal year, do you remember how many? Do you remember the number? For
I don't remember the number.
110.
I was taking to it. 110.
Anyway,
But
Sorry, yes, continue. Sorry.
but yeah, we've had 110 overdoses last fiscal year.
that's only counting when we administered naloxone and
is
called
it?
911.
Okay.
So there's a lot of people that we were able to help with just oxygen, or just like monitoring them and like getting them up and moving and stuff. So really, like, a lot more people would have gone into an overdose response had we not been there.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Sorry.
No,
it
it
gives
is.
me
Yeah.
goosebumps.
Do you want to talk a bit about that? So like all the staff are going to be, but about a good portion of our staff right now are medically trained first responders. And that wasn't something that like when the overdose prevention site opened that we had the hindsight to be like, that's what we need, that training, was it? Like it was kind of brought to our attention, and then we realized how.
Yeah, we're learning as we go,
Yeah.
and we felt it would be like a good asset to have to be able to deal with different kinds of emergencies, and also the oxygen specifically.
Yeah.
Because an opioid overdose is like a respiratory failure. So the first thing that goes out is your breathing, and usually your heartbeat elevates at first. So usually people still have a heartbeat when we catch them, because we can catch them right away. So we don't often have to do CPR, but we do have to give oxygen. So it's really important for us to have that on hand.
Yeah.
I think a lot of places should have that as well.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
just in awe.
no,
Even though I
it's
work
fine.
in there sometimes too, I'm still like, that catches me right in the
Do you
feels.
remember? I know you have questions, but I told you I was winging it.
I
so-
like winging it. I just wanted to make sure I didn't go, That's
Do you remember when, like, so 2 questions, I guess. Do you remember when you got hired, like what your thought process was when you, because you didn't apply to be the overdose prevention site team lead.
No, not at all.
No.
Clear that up.
Well, I mean,
Just like a personal note, I guess. Like, what was your thought process when you?
I mean, I was excited to have the opportunity for sure.
Were you very
Of course,
familiar?
I wasn't super familiar. I thought that I was maybe more than I actually was.
Okay.
I came in, I guess, fairly naive, and then
Yeah.
reality quickly hit.
Fair.
I've been through a lot of
Same,
like
been there.
through the couple of years I've been here.
Yeah.
You know, I've been hit a few times, and like my mind has shifted a few times about how I see things, to like going from very optimistic to very pessimistic to moderately optimistic, I suppose.
Wow, can I relate? That's cool though.
Because you got to try to adapt. You can't just let yourself go into negative, but it's also very hard to see kind of, people being criminalized for their trauma and for their addictions. And it's just what they go through every day is just really brutal to just like sit there and try to absorb it every day. Takes a toll. So
it does. Because I remember too, and I don't know if I've ever talked to like you or Nick or even Joanne about any of this, but I remember like the first 4 months we had open the overdose prevention site, we didn't have one overdose.
No, I think it was even maybe more than that.
Yeah, like 4 to 5 about, or like it was a while, for a long time, because Tanya wasn't on staff at this point, so for the first number of months we didn't see one overdose. So like I'm not a worker in the overdose prevention site, but I can imagine like that kind of like, first you're on high alert, high anxiety when you first open, I can imagine, and then it kind of like starts to.
There was like a false sense of security there.
Yeah.
And then, the first few overdoses, because I had never worked on an overdose. Yeah. So clearly that was a shock as well. Yeah. I remember like a little story. I worked on an overdose, and after the person woke up, they were crying, but it was like a very like childish cry, like not to say that they're childish, but it was just like this very like
a kid like.
Just this full on like cry. And it was really just like terrible and hard to see, just because like you feel bad for that person, that person, you like that person, and like they're having this emotional reaction that's very raw. And so we get them back up, and they have that reaction, and then like, okay, I have to leave for a minute to go to my kid's Christmas concert. And he goes to school right near here, so I walk out of that situation to go to the Christmas concert, and I'm just sitting there, and like I'm like, this is so messed up. Like I don't understand.
Messed up world.
I can't, like, how do I go from this to this?
Yeah.
I think there was a kid that was really shy on stage, and like my eyes watered up.
Well, your emotions are already up there.
Yeah.
You're already like high intent.
Then my wife looked at me and she was like, "Are you crying?" I was like, "No." No. But just like that contrast, and even having to leave the OPS to just go right to picking up my kid is like such a weird feeling.
It is weird, hey? Yeah. Like you say that now, I think like how many times have like we have all left here like after an intense situation and like just gone home, or like gone to our kids' Christmas concert, or like gone to the dentist, or gone to get groceries, and it's a very jarring in the sense that like you have those moments, but then like you kind of become numb to it. Like now it's like not second nature, but just kind of like you always have those moments where you're like, oh man, that was rough, but we're like feel like become a bit desensitized to like.
Is it desensitized, not to be a pain in the ass, but is it desensitized, or is it the fact that we know we have good trained staff that know what to do?
Yeah.
Because I remember zooming every time I heard an ambulance, whether it went up the street, down the street, or didn't around the corner. It's just right away. But now I'm like, staff's got it. It's not I'm being nonchalant. I know your staff is awesome.
Yeah.
So when something happens, I'm like, okay, it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay,
now.
yeah.
But at the beginning, I wasn't sure what the hell was going to happen when I first started working in there, because I wasn't used to it. So
and two, there was a period of time where, so I remember, didn't you guys go tour Halifax? I think it was Halifax, and they had told you like the max they see a day is 10. Was that there?
Yeah, that was that side. At that time, I don't know what their numbers are now.
Probably different now, but at that time.
Max overdoses or max
people?
People.
They saw come in the site a day were like 10 at that point in time.
And I remember like, I don't know, I don't even know if it was the first week, but at some point where we beat them, like, and we had like more than 10 people, we were like, yeah, we're doing a good job. But now we see like easily like 20 individuals in the daytime and like 20 in the nighttime. So
yeah, it's just it's crazy to me. So like we for a while like we see those numbers, and then for a while we only had like 3 staff. right? So there was a time when the whole staff were constantly like, you hear an ambulance, you were running wherever you were in this building, right?
So if you had one thing you wanted to tell community, like, hey, this is what's going on here, and is there anything you'd like to let people know about what we do here, or the impact maybe, or clients, feedback, or...
I think, one feedback that we get fairly often is how nice it is to come to a place and be respected and be talked to like a person. And I think that's important to bring up because we don't know the struggles that everyone go through like on a day-to-day basis or in their lifetime. And it's easy to like look at someone when you see them and judge them. And we've all done it. If it's not judging someone who looks homeless, it's like judging someone who looks a certain way for whatever. But I don't know, just take the time to like try to learn people's story, or at least don't make assumptions, and be kind. I don't know. I know that's very cheesy, but
No, it's not cheesy.
No, it's
I
not.
love
It's true.
that.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Don't assume the worst out of everyone right away, I guess.
Because they are some of the nicest people, like, and I think it's because they have literally nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
It makes them so real and like so blunt sometimes, but
Yeah.
and it's not to say that like, you know, they're just like us. And I think what it is people forget that we can have bad days, but we can go inside and we can hide the bad days. Like when someone like our clientele, when they're having bad days, they have to do it publicly and in the open, right? So they don't get to hide like that.
Yeah.
So and it makes me mad when I see these videos of people like, oh, look what's going on in downtown Moncton, and they're filming someone through their bedroom window because someone's like having a moment in an alley or something. It's like be grateful you can do that inside.
And we also like mentioned the gaps in like mental health services earlier, and like you have to consider most of these people don't have access to adequate services that they need, and a lot of them do have mental health issues. So to expect them to behave like quote unquote normally is kind of
unexpected. It's unrealistic.
Yeah, they're gonna have bad mental health days, and it's gonna show, and they're gonna be on the side of the street. And
we've made such amazing connections with the people that come into Ensemble. Not only do I feel sometimes like it's a family with staff, but I mean, man, we love our clients. I don't know how to express what I'm saying, but we're engulfed in this, and we care about our people so much, and they are going through so many things that people just don't understand. And I just hope people can do what you said, Josue. Take the time and talk to somebody. Be kind. Sounds so simple, but it's so hard for some people sometimes.
if you can't do that, just leave that
do
person
anything.
alone.
Yeah.
Just go about your life, man. Just don't do anything. If you can't be nice, just
Buzz off.
just buzz off. But I don't know if we wanted to talk. We did expand hours in the Overdose prevention site recently.
Yeah, well, we used to be, like you had mentioned, we used to be open 8:30 till 3:30, or maybe it was 4:30 at the time, or 9 to 4:30.
I know I've been here till
Something like that.
4:30.
It was office hours. Anyways, we have since expanded to the evening, so we're open. We do like our last intake at 9:30, so we're open till 10, but we won't take anyone between, so that there's time to clear out. And yeah, we still open at 8:30, and we're open on the weekends 10 to 5. So
That gives me so much comfort knowing that there's extended hours and weekend hours. I don't know how to express myself. It's comfort knowing that the people we love and see most often every day or within a week or whatever, what have you, that we know that they're safer.
Even like, so one of the, we talked about it when we talked about the needle distribution, like one of the things we're seeing is people aren't injecting anymore. So that's kind of something that the overdose prevention site is, I would say, struggling with right now. Like trying to kind of work with is the fact that the OPS is injection use only inside. We don't have the proper setup for inhalation use. So to have a population that's now switching to smoking and inhalation when we're an injection site. So, but it's what I'm getting at is it's even comforting here. We do have a fenced in backyard that people can come here. They even just come here to smoke because they would rather be here where they know the staff is at the ready than like out somewhere else where they can smoke and stuff. So
Yeah.
and just
A funny little thing about people switching to smoking more is we kind of saw this when we opened the OPS. A lot of people were using shady eights, they called, which is isotoniazidine.
Ooh, that's
think-
that was a
impressive.
big word. Good
Yeah.
job.
Thank you. But they weren't able to smoke that, so a lot of people injected it. But then we saw, and at the time, like most people were not using fentanyl at all, but we kind of saw fentanyl slowly start to move in because we do ask people what they're using. And as fentanyl became more popular, they started smoking it more and injecting it less. But
Really?
yeah, and that's
Okay.
why the pipes have gone up, and it's
Okay.
the shift in the drug supply.
Yeah.
That is so interesting. I didn't know that about shadies. So
Yeah, we barely see them anymore.
I've not heard any buzz on it.
When we first opened, it was like the
Years
main
ago,
thing
yeah.
that
Oh,
people.
then, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
But I mean,
yeah.
like, currently,
yes,
I haven't
yes.
heard
No,
anybody
not
say
currently.
anything.
I think that's so fast. Like the change in drug supply is always so like it's terrible, but it's also like fascinating because like I think it was the same. Like we didn't have overdoses for a while, and then the drug supply switched.
Yeah.
And then it was like overdose, and it's kind of like now the drug supply switched again, and now it's all smoking and overdosing and. A lot of overdoses outside. I think the majority of overdoses now are.
I think it will be for the summertime.
Yeah,
It wasn't in the last quarter,
Yeah.
but I think it
Will
will.
be in the summertime. And speaking of the change in drug supply, Josue, you've been on the news
Yeah.
weeks ago.
We have a
Also once
celebrity.
before.
And once oh my god, yes!
No!
I'm so sorry.
We need to play that
There's
clip.
not enough snowmen in downtown Moncton.
I love it.
But yeah, you were on the news because of xylazine.
Yeah, well, we have a machine here to test drugs, and we also have testing strips. We have fentanyl, benzo, and xylazine testing strips, and so when people ask, we will happily test it and caution them that just because we don't find anything doesn't mean it's not in their drugs. It just means because like we're testing such a small portion that we can't say for sure, but if we do find it, then we can confirm that it's in there, and people have the choice to be more careful.
And that's great for all the listeners to know that they can get drugs tested.
Yeah, even if you don't come to Ensemble, like even if you've never been here, you can come here. You can drop a supply. You can wait for it, and I will test it.
Ballpark, how long would it take to test it? I come in right now. Like, would I come back in 20 minutes, an hour, 2 days?
If I have the time to do it right at the moment, it would take about 15 minutes.
Okay.
If I'm busy with something else, I could take your information and contact you later. I could try to do it the next day or whenever I have a day where I can focus on that. But
That's awesome. That could save a life. Lives. So,
Well, we did recently. We had not recently. I would say a couple weeks ago. Like an individual came in and he was just a recreational, he was a recreational substance user and he wanted his meth tested because, I guess like little caution is that right now we're finding fentanyls in everything. So even if you are someone who recreationally smokes meth, there's probably a good chance there's fentanyl or something laced in there. So, but he had heard about it and brought it in and got it tested by because other staff
awesome.
can do it too.
Yes.
Yeah, other staff can do it too. So, yeah, but you were on the news for xylazine.
yeah.
And do you want to talk about xylazine?
Sure. Yeah.
no pressure.
I
Are we
mean,
still seeing it? I meant to ask you this
Yes.
actually earlier.
yeah, no, we're still seeing it, and we're still seeing the effects on it because how people respond to it is different than even fentanyl. They'll be on the nod, which is what we call when they're like not necessarily unresponsive, but they kind of look sleepy, and you know we gotta have to keep an eye on them to make sure that they won't become unresponsive. But they're like that much longer we have to give a lot more oxygen for longer periods of time. And even sometimes like they're somewhat responsive, or like they're not quite overdosing, but we need to like shake them up every now and then just to like be like, hey, you gotta breathe and take those breaths in. So it
makes it harder.
Yeah.
For like everything just makes the job harder.
Yeah.
It does make it harder, and Narcan will work on the fentanyl that it's on, but it won't work on the xylazine. So the effects of that will still be happening even if you give Narcan. So, but if in doubt, you might as well give Narcan just to make sure, because even if it just takes the fentanyl away,
it's an asset nonetheless.
Yeah.
I've heard xylazine has issues with the flesh. Have you seen many wounds because of xylazine in OPS?
Yes, we've seen, I don't know if it's a lot more wounds, but we've seen some that just look like, I don't know, more like open sores.
Okay.
We've been sending them to the nurse, and she's been treating a lot of people for it as well. I'm sure if you like I'm sure if you were to like get her on as a guest, she could speak on it for sure. But I'm sure she is seeing a lot more wounds.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we typically see wounds a lot, period. But the xylazine, it's supposed to be like a flesh-eating kind of like, it's like an open sore that's just all open and big, right?
Yeah, I couldn't comment on like the specifics of it, but like, yeah.
Okay. I just find that sad.
It's, like this population already has like terrible immune systems, and like Josue said earlier, they don't receive the same medical attention we receive. So like just to add another factor to it is just kind of like come on, man. Like
seriously, they're already struggling with basic needs, not luxurious needs. They're trying to survive. Sorry, but that's heavy. I love our people. It's not easy some days, so.
Oh, we're in a funk this week, remember?
Yeah, I'm still in my funk. Yeah,
there's definitely some fun days where people are joking around, and then there are days that are chaotic where everyone's not joking around. We have to de-escalate a bit more, but
But the respect here, I think you mentioned it earlier, is the respect we have here, because we give respect to the clientele, is like very apparent when we have those moments where it's like not joking around and a lot of de-escalation. Like it's very much like, I find for the most part, if things are getting intense, either the individuals involved or the individuals around them always remind them, hey, not here.
Yeah, for sure.
This is our place, not here. Like, this is our safe place. Take it outside. Or
I love that.
I'll always tell the story about one client who was like about to like punch someone's face in as he's walking out the NDS door, and then backs up to tell me, I'll beat him up on the sidewalk, don't worry. I'm like, cool, thanks. Thanks. Don't make it my problem, thanks.
Well, that's respect in their form, and
but that's
beautiful.
realistically what it is. Like, the overdose prevention site is their space.
Yeah.
Like, what else are they going to do if, like, anything were to happen to us? Like, to the business, right?
Yeah, because there's no other overdose prevention site, per se, in town. That's huge to me. Like, I'd be devastated if this place got burnt to the ground.
Can we debunk something for a second?
Yep.
So, one thing, I know this because I go and do naloxone training, so sometimes I get questions, and I'm like, okay, that's clearly like a societal stigma surrounding there. So a lot of times people ask, oh, when you bring someone back, I hear they're violent. I hear they're throwing fists. They have weapons at the ready. And I'm like, no, that's not.
Not quite.
Just wait, how often is someone violent that you bring them back when you bring them back?
Not very often. I mean, sometimes they will be mad because we did take away like their buzz in their eyes, but
never
also,
at us though.
No, and like, but they might be angry, but I wouldn't necessarily. They're not coming fist swinging. Oftentimes they feel sick. They've just been revived. They often don't have that kind of energy to fight, anyways. Most of the time, people are grateful, and even in those moments where they do get upset, they come around and are grateful afterwards, after they've had time to process it a little bit.
I've had a few people who've apologized.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, they'll wake up and the first thing they say, like, oh, I'm so sorry I did that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
It's like, it's literally my job, for one. Also, don't ever apologize for that specific moment. So
I think that's very common. A lot of people apologize as if it's a burden, and we try to remind them that it's not, and it's not a burden because it's our job. It's just like, it's not a burden because we care and we want to help them and we want them to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's no different than if we were like paramedics who responded to a 911 call of someone falling down or something. Like, it's literally, it's what we do.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
On that note, if anybody's listening and has ever felt stigma or like they can't come here to use or anything, I remind people, thank you so much for coming to the OPS to use.
Yes.
So anybody out there, give us a try. If somebody uses, please don't ever use alone. The OPS is awesome.
Do you remember your, like, and I can't remember if you talked about it already, you might have, I'm sorry, but do you remember the first overdose you responded to?
I remember the first one we had. I was on the phone for that one. I made the call.
So
I
one you responded to. Though.
Yeah. And so the first one, I wasn't hands-on, but I made the call. The first one I responded to where like no one else was in the room at the time, and I was the one who like found the person. The other person wasn't far, but they just weren't physically there. So I had to like yell for them and start putting that person on the ground. No, it was scary for sure. They're definitely scary. I mean, they're always scary, but at first, when you're not sure, it's definitely quite an experience. And like I remember I wasn't really quite happy with how I responded to them. Like I wasn't quick enough to make decisions.
Okay, that's interesting, because I had the same reaction the first time I ever responded to it.
I think that's pretty normal, and I think most people will not necessarily know what to do the first time, even if you've been trained. But after you've done it once or twice, you kind of get more comfortable. Like you have to like not let that get you down and just be like, more confident. Because
I had the same. I remember the very first time I ever responded to an overdose. We had the overdose prevention site for a while, but we were closed this Monday morning. The site, the OPS was closed, but the NDS was open. And long story short, we had a public bathroom. We don't anymore. And someone had injected in the bathroom. And while we had this public bathroom, we did periodic checks. But like he went in the bathroom, and I knew like deep down, I was like, oh man. And like knocked, he didn't respond. So I opened the door, and he had overdosed on the ground. But I remember the exact same thing. Like we had clients around who thankfully like helped and like coached us through and kept us. They kept me calm. Like the clients were like very reassuring and kept me calm. Yeah. But I remember preparing this sticks out so much to me. I remember preparing the naloxone, and like at this point I had given so many naloxone trainings, and I'm trying to like put the needle in the vial, and I'm like shaking. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like yelling at myself in my head. I'm like, I've done this. I've taught this so many times. Like, why can't I do this? And just like so panicked in that moment. And then we brought him back around.
Yeah, you reversed it.
Yeah, we reversed it, and the paramedics came and took him to the hospital. I think he went to the hospital. But I remember after that was my only thought. It wasn't that like, oh, we did it, he's okay. It was like, oh my God, like I didn't do this. I didn't get hands to chest fast enough. I didn't, like, why was I shaking so much? Like that was like the only thing going through my head was like criticizing every little thing I had done.
Yeah, so, for sure. I think that's normal for most people. One thing that you mentioned that I thought was interesting was how there were people around like that come and use the service that were there and were very helpful. Yeah. The same thing happened to us in the OPS in the first few overdoses that we've had. We had people, because they've experienced this, they've lived it, they're experts at it. They've done it more times than me. Yeah. And so they did help us, and they did kind of coach us and like kept us calm. And so like without them, I don't know that I ever would have gotten the confidence to be where I'm at now, where I can respond to one calmly and feel confident that I can bring someone back, you know?
Yeah, That's almost very poetic.
Yeah.
Like, and it is, realistically it is. It's because of the clients that, like, we are now confident enough to do our job, which is to protect the clients.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost a very, like, that's a very poetic way to look at it.
Yeah.
Right.
And even when I first started working in OPS, you kept me calm. I mean, you are a quiet fellow, but even your presence, like, you're well versed, but you're good at being calm. You are like I don't know, as long as I know you got it, I'm like, I'm good. Like, I don't know, your staff must also appreciate that too. Maybe they don't come right out and tell you, but your presence is great. You're so good at OPS, Josue.
Oh, thank you.
I think too, it goes
100%.
back to end it on kind of like a very positive note is we talked briefly about it, is that I am very confident in everyone's like abilities. Like, and I know everyone has my back. Like, if I were to go downstairs and Josue and I were there and we were the two responding to an overdose, like, I am very confident that like we could do it.
Yeah, for
Right?
sure.
Like, I am like, there isn't someone you could put me with and I'd be like, ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, everyone here is very capable of what they're doing. And if they're not, like, they're very open to like talking about it.
Yeah.
And being like, you know what, I need help with this, or I'm not feeling like that comfortable, or like we've all developed a nice kind of, I don't want to say bond because that sounds a bit cheesy, but family. But I think it's true that like we're very fortunate, and Josue, I've told you this before, but you did a very good job at like hiring your staff when you expanded, because you had to we expanded hours, which means we need more staff. So like you had to cycle through a lot of Indeed application
For sure.
to try to find someone. And
Yeah.
it's not an easy job to hire for.
No, not at all. There's a lot of things to consider when hiring someone for that kind of environment. And yeah, we went from like 3 to sometimes even 2 staff to now 10, including me. So
Yeah.
Last summer was tense,
yeah.
It's very tense.
but I loved it. Not gonna lie. I couldn't lie, but that'd be no fun.
Do you have anything else you'd like to say or to add before we give it to Tanya so she can rant a bit about her job?
I think we should give it to Tanya. I'd like to hear this rant.
So Tanya comes up to the office to me today and she goes, I don't know what my job is.
I didn't say it like that. I don't know what to say about my job. I know how to do it, but I don't know how to explain it sometimes. You got a question? Come see me. I probably won't know, but I'll find it out.
Tanya, what are you?
Right. So I'm a wellness navigator here 5 days a week.
Yeah.
It really is basically just, if you have a question, come see me, whether it's about social development, whether it's about your GST check that went into the wrong bank account, whether it's navigating complex social systems. And I don't know about anybody else out there, but man, some days are longer than others when you got to try to work at getting that paperwork, or like I said, navigating the systems. No, call this number. No, call this number. Well, let me tell you, I've learned a lot over the last year, because I had no sweet clue most of the stuff, like not most of the stuff, but some of the different things that I deal with. Stop making fun of me. You suck. But I love you. So referrals to community resources. I do housing assessments, provide one-on-one support, crisis management, organizing events with you. But really, it's just a lot of housing assessments, social development questions, subsidies, taxes. It's not easy to do that when you have a home to store your forms, or you have a home to, I don't know how to explain what I'm saying. We all have government things that we have to deal with. It's not easy.
Kept in like a file folder.
Well,
in our
yeah.
desk at our home.
I'm so not good with words. That's exactly it. So that's what I help folks do. I help them get set up. I learn almost every week a new process. I'm sure of it. So there's so many things I still have yet to learn. But yeah, that's what I do.
I told Tanya the other day, because Tanya was downplaying herself.
Oh.
She was like, I don't know the answers. All I do is Google. All I do is look things up.
Well.
But just like, back me up on this, okay? Because I told Tanya the other day, she is literally like a pivotal part of the 2 frontline services.
Yeah, 100%.
Because like she's giving me a weird look right now. But it's true because you have Josue and his team operating an overdose prevention site, and then you have the NDS, you have the staff down there operating the NDS. None of us have time to stop and be like, oh, let me spend 3 hours on the phone with social development to help this client get their money, which is important.
Yeah.
Right? So if we didn't have you, the wellness navigator, to send them to, none of those things would happen.
Well, thank
Right?
you.
So
yeah.
like,
yeah, you do all that and you have fun facts.
I love fun facts.
It's amazing.
Thank you. I absolutely love my job. I love being with the people. I don't care what they need. I mean, if I can do it, great. If I can't, I mean, I got some boundaries and limits, but I love helping people. That's the best job I've ever had to date, and I'm 50. So, yeah.
but the front line is more like, we are here immediately now. Here's what we can do for you
Yeah.
Now.
You are more, okay, how can I help better you long term? You need your check?
Yeah.
Of course you need your check every month. I'm going to help you. I'm going to take the time to do that and help you. Right?
Yeah.
Someone who works in the overdose, and I say that because we didn't always have, your position is also a newer position.
Right.
So, like, when I was in the NDS, I had to sit there at the computer and try to figure all these things out while also serving people. And, like, granted, we weren't as busy. We didn't have an overdose prevention site, so the traffic wasn't as much. But it's a lot.
Yeah.
And also, government's shit is confusing.
Amen, sister.
Right? So,
Yeah.
I always say, like, we have the 2 frontline services, and then we have Tanya's position, and they're all equally as important.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So stop downplaying yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got great community partners that we refer our clients to, like for IDs and, setting up for food banks and shelters, and the list could go on, but, well, not too far because our resources are somewhat limited.
It's a short list, but
it is, but it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you also feed our clients, which is very important. You keep them very happy, you and your sandwich ladies.
We do try to make sure there's full bellies every day, that's for sure. Thanks so much for listening today, guys. And Josue, thank you so much for coming. We've been so excited about you coming for being our first guest. And Cassandra, I think things are going well, sunshine. Everybody, be kind out there. I didn't say it as good as last time.
She really wants a catchphrase.
I did it on the last one.
Well, thank you
What
so much.
was it? Smash that like button.
Oh, bam.
Subscribe.
I love it.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Have a great week, everyone.